Picking up a win a couple weeks ago at Ocean Speedway at the Pettit Shootout, a 103-lap marathon of Friesen Performance IMCA Modified racing. We've got him on the Beyond the Flags podcast talking about Andy Obertello, 2013 champion at Ocean Speedway in Watsonville, talking to the California driver about his introduction into racing from karts, then to modifieds, and from there took some interesting developments. That is coming up next. But before we get to the interview, make sure wherever you're listening or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. On the Beyond the Flags podcast, he pilots the Friesen Performance IMCA Modified number 29 from Hollister, California, Andy Obertello. Andy, first of all, congratulations. A big win for you in your racing career a couple of weeks ago at Ocean Speedway in Watsonville by picking up the Pettit Shootout.
Hey, thanks, Ben. And appreciate it. You know, the Pettit Shootout race, you know, one of the biggest races here on the West Coast for us in our area. So, I think I'm still celebrating from last Saturday's feature win there.
Well, and watching that race, it's a marathon, right? 103 laps on a tight quarter-mile clay oval, and it's about patience and also doing really good on restarts. I felt like restarts were kind of the name of the game, too, for that race.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as far as the long-duration races go, you know, I've always been a big fan of them, you know, the 50-lap plus races. You know, when I was growing up, you know, my idol was my dad, and he won a 50-lap race there in Madeira in an IMCA Modified, you know, so hopefully I inherited some of the patience there because, you know, that's what it takes. You know, you got to kind of bide your time and take what you can get. And the years of experience, you know, going through the race, I think there's, you know, this was the 14th annual, and if I were to have memory serve me correct, I want to say this is only the 8th or 9th Pettit race that we've made, and I think they've either been 50 lap or 100 lap features. So Watsonville, their Ocean Speedway, has typically had a couple races that have either been 50 or 100 lap, the earmark races here at the end of the year, where we've been in contention here at the end, either second, third place, either finished, you know, in the top five or had something happen to us running in the top five late in the race and take us out of contention. But, you know, the stars aligned, and you mentioned restarts, and you know, that was one of the things that I had on the back of my mind. And like I said in one of the interviews, I was pulling all the tricks in the book, you know, from learning from my dad, you know, early on my racing career in, you know, IMCA cars started in Merced. So I learned a lot from Jack Stanford when I raced. And, you know, I'll never forget what he kind of taught me about restarts there. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to race, you know, with Bobby, you know, and he's kind of a master on restarts, and, you know, everybody, he has their own style. But basically you're in the lead. You're vulnerable from the guys that are running second, third, fourth, fifth. So you have to do what you can, to make the entry into turn one and that first lap count without making a mistake.
Well, and for much of that race, you were the predator, right? You were trying to hunt down the likes of, you know, you mentioned Bobby Hogue, and then also ended up being Troy Folger, had a really good battle, got the lead, and then you were the prey for, it seemed like, the second half of the race, specifically maybe the last 25 laps, where Sean Nattenstead was just trying to figure a way under you. Then he couldn't. Then he tried to go around you. There was a scary moment there with, you know, a little over 10 laps or so to go. Fortunately, the yellow came out. He got a really good run to the outside. But then once he was able to show his cards there, you you seem to checkmate him really well on the upcoming restart.
Yeah, Ben, we made it to halfway, and I'm not sure if I surprised myself because, the team, we put in a lot of hard work, and I think Bill from IMCA, he had a nice little write-up, and, he referred me to as a veteran, and that kind of took me back a little bit, a day or so ago, like, we were kind of up and coming there for a while, as the young guns or whatever, and then that transition to be called veteran is, I'm still trying to get used to that. But we made the halfway break there at 50. I made the choice. Usually I'm getting out of the car, going through all four corners. Hey, what can I do better? And this time I sat in the car. I'm like, I just kind of need to regain my composure. We got there, and I think, I had an unconventional line that I told my dad before the race started. It's one of the lines that I wanted to try and run. Also having some historical knowledge from the track. I'm not sure how many laps we have around that place, but we have a considerable amount. And knowing the characteristics of the track and what may develop or what may stay the same came into play there. And I ran a line that I've ran there before with some success. At the same time, it was a line that I could run consistently without having to have a lot of errors, and put yourself in a situation where you're running, if I were to run the top, it may have been the fastest line around the track. But at the same time, if I were to make an error and go over the cushion or miss my line, I would open the door. So basically, I got in a position on halfway through the rest of the race, and, they were going to have to beat me on, consistency or, just taking advantage of a mistake that I may or may not have made.
Well, and you mentioned history and a lot of laps that you've earned there over the years. A former champion at Ocean Speedway in Watsonville, winning the title in 2013, and no doubt it seems to be a place that you, despite running a full schedule or limited schedule, it's a place that you end up going to a lot throughout the course of the season, and no doubt have had success over the years. But obviously to break through and get this one is a monumental win and a huge win.
Well, absolutely. That's where I grew up racing. That's where my dad started racing. My dad and Dave, started racing there, and came to be because of a mechanics race, many years ago. And that's, my dad got his feet wet in there. And, the rest is history. So, I grew up around racing, and especially at Watsonville, and, paying attention is one of the things that, I think that, out there you have to do as well. From an early age to now. Because you're able to kind of revert to those memories and saying, hey, this guy did this, like you mentioned, on a restart, and it worked. Or, hey, if he waited too long on a restart, it may have not worked. Right. And even when my dad wasn't racing, the Antonettis, Joe Lloyd Antonetti, and the Silvas, Nick, Pam, and Jeff, all of them and my dad were able to get me a start in the IMCA division. So I jumped straight from go-karts to modifieds. There was no kind of stepping stone for me in there. And they all embraced, kind of me with open arms, as well as Dana Stahl with, help and support. He was always kind of, family friend, building race cars. And, whatever we needed, he was there to kind of get us progressed to the next level.
Oh, that's cool. So about what year was that when you first started going from the go-kart ranks to the modifieds?
I think that was like 2000, right around there, 1999, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So basically been about age 16, heavily into sports. And at that time it was baseball. And I think my parents and my dad, and my mom were, baseball or racing because we were, racing go-karts. On the weekends, my dad was still racing, and I remember everything about it. And, it's baseball games, going into high school or on the weekends, you have practices 2-3 times a week. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of going back, I don't want to say back to my roots, but, the racing's been ingrained in me, and, it's just a passion from day one. So, I said racing over baseball.
And your dad was a first generation driver, correct? Or does your racing roots go farther back than that?
No, correct. My dad was first generation racing, multi-generational, rose growing business, family business. So, multitasking, juggling, work and racing, as many of us do. So that's where, early on I can see, how I've been able to adapt from racing and working and having that balance.
Well, and then you mentioned go-karts. Was that something where you would go to like Delta and Stockton, or was there something more local?
So my very first race was in Newman, California, there in the Valley.
Okay.
It was my dad and my uncle, so my mom's younger brother, that got us into that. Bought my very first go-kart. So, before racing, you'll find it on my social media pages and whatnot. It's kind of one of my favorite pictures of all time. That for Christmas one year, my parents bought us a Invader fun cart,
Mm-hmm.
or me, an Invader fun cart. It might have been from my uncle. It was yellow. Had a red high performance engine on it, had a, VW, windshield washer fluid tank as a gas tank on it. And like I said, my dad owned, or they had a wholesale, rose growing business. So I terrorized, the 10, 20 acres they had out there on a go-kart, golf cart, whatever it was. If it was during the summer, or if it was a weekend, or if it was an early morning that, maybe I didn't have to go to school or whatever, that's where I wanted to be. I was setting up, 5-gallon buckets in the parking lot, and I was making my own oval track there, right? Emulating everything that I saw growing up.
Nice. So then you get to modifieds, but then you also ventured in the late model world a little bit, correct?
Yes. And so we did modifieds there for a while. And then my dad and Dana Saul had built a brand new modified. We went to Madera and tested it. So it was my dad, me, Joe Antonetti, and went and we ran it. And it was my first time on asphalt testing it. And Joe Antonetti, I grew up racing, right with him. He had won 5 or 6 in a row at Bakersfield on the dirt, and we transitioned. We're going to transition to the asphalt, and he was, on old tires on my dad's brand new car. It was, within a tenth or two of the track record, or if not beating it. And I was 4 or 5 tenths away, and my dad's like, "What's going on? How do you like it? That type of a thing." And, I'm like, "Yeah, this is fun, but, I might like the dirt better." So, my parents and my dad, and, at that point in time, I think, I might have been 16, 17 years old. Next thing I knew, he traded the brand new car that I think he may have only raced, I don't know, I would say a handful of times, 2, 3, 4 times, for a dirt late model from Jamie Throckmorton out of Arizona. It was, a trade, and we put it together, and that kind of started our dirt late model venture.
Okay, won a track championship at Antioch. We were talking before going on air about 2008, but then you found your way back to the Friesen Performance IMCA Modifieds. And when was that about the time when you came back again?
So I want to say 2016, 2017. So we've always had either a modified and a late model. There was a time, Ben, where we had 2 late models. And, Ocean Speedway in Antioch, John Prentice, put together a deal where we were able, and it was a cool deal where we were able to race Friday night at Watsonville, Saturday night at Antioch, with the Crate Late Model Series. After we ran the late models for a few years, we were fortunate in the late model world, and I don't want to overstep that portion of racing late models to get back into modifieds, because I think racing those late models was one of the best times that we've had racing. Not only because it was good racing, you were around good people, great people. During the time racing Bakersfield, that was the time during where me and my soon to be wife, not wife yet, but had started dating and went through that, and we were able to get married, and was able to be fortunate to win, I think, 2 late model races at Watsonville and several at Antioch.
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of a replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. Well, number 29. I remember first time I met you was the 21. It was called, I think, the John Ford Memorial at Merced. Their Dirt Nationals, now the George Stites Memorial. Number 29. I've always seen you in the 29. Is there a story behind that number selection?
So originally, Ben, my go-kart number was number 12. For whatever reason, I was attached to that when I started wanting to be kind of in that competitive nature. We initially were going to be racing at Watsonville when it was, say, NASCAR. And AJ Kirkpatrick was number 12. So it was a time where we're like, all right, well, he's number 12. What's my second choice? So I was number 8. So I actually started my IMCA career as number 8. Where that number came from, I can't really pinpoint, but we were number 8. And there was a time where me and my buddy Andrew, we were working at the Chevy dealership both together in Salinas. We surprised my parents with the number 29 at Merced one race, and the number 29 comes from my parents' anniversary date of August 29th.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the symbolic nature of the number 29.
Nice. I always love those cool symbolic things of something that it nobody would have ever thought of. So at least outside looking in. So that's
yeah. So so after that, it was 29 pretty much from there on out. And there was a race or two that I think I may have gotten wrecked inadvertently because I may have been recognized by an out of towner that, for a year or two, I was number 8 and, hey, this guy passed me and he hit me or whatever it was. And, then they realized, after the race and, it was all good after that. But, since then we've been, 29 and we'll be 29 from here on out.
Nice. Well, and something to note going back to your win, in 2024 specifically, you've only ran literally a handful of times. And it's super cool to see somebody like that to just kind of come out and crack off a big win.
Yeah, we put a lot of hard work in this, man, over the years. I think our results may or may not have shown at some points how competitive we may or may not have been, but at the same time, sometimes, we have to race, conservatively on being able to make the next race and being able to take those chances and whatnot. Sometimes it's, you're going for broke and then, sometimes you're content with the position that you're in. There was sometime in the last 2 or 3 years, where we kind of had to, make the decision that, we want to race, but we want to make, accurate, we want to make sure that we're ready to race, not anything that, we're just racing to race the next race and we're not ready. We want to make sure that we're ready, for it. We want to make sure that everything we have, is ready to go. So, in turn, we're racing a little bit less just because of, the outside circumstances and whatnot. We have other things going on, but, the less starts doesn't mean that we're not less prepared. So we know what we need to do in between races and the homework that we do, during the off time that we're not racing, kind of, listen to a few of your podcasts, earlier last week, with Tom and Troy, and a few of the others that you're talking to, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's not just one person, so it does take a team to do this.
No doubt, and I like that you hit on there, just like not basically racing like your hair's on fire, like racing with purpose and concentrating on a schedule to where you can do it right, I guess, versus, unfortunately what happens sometimes is guys are scrambling or they're scraping or they got a hurt car when they should maybe be, and this isn't to call anyone out, but, take a week off and fully go through it, right? You've got to crack somewhere, like make sure that's attended to make sure, not just for racing's sake that you're racing effectively, but also just safety as well.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, prior to this year, we've always, for the previous, I would say 10 years or so, at least, we'd have 2 cars. At some point we had 3. So if one car wasn't ready, the other car was. And that was during kind of the transition to IMCA from the crate, option to the open motor. And, historically in California, early on in the season, the crate motor may not be the best option. So kind of going into that in the past, we've kind of, headed up one car with an open engine, and kind of the setup to kind of accommodate it, and another car with a crate. So as a matter of fact, I think the car we had just sold, Lance Mari's been pretty, instrumental in our modified program. my first car was I think it was a 1994 Harris, that we inherited, secondhand from Antonetti and Silva. And, that was, them helping us out getting into the sport here, to a victory, to a Dana Stahl car, to, Lance Murray and his dad, Aaron, and mom and wife, Lynette, and, Sandy, getting us, a part of the MRT team. And I can't say enough, because it took a big leap of faith for them, to partner up with us. And, it's been a partnership since 2011. And now, Lance is out racing, and we still work together from time to time, but I'm just very, very privileged to be a part of that.
Well, something interesting. So you're from Hollister, California, and I want to think, I don't know, maybe the first guy I met from Hollister was either Ryan Burnell, or it might have been Clay Daly when he came up here for a late model race. I always associated Hollister, California with the clothing company, and I found out really fast that it's Hollister Clothing Company is not based out of Hollister, California. That's more like, I think, a San Diego thing. But nonetheless, it seems like it's a charming place on the 101, just out south of Watsonville and Salinas and the San Jose area.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, fortunately for us, we're centralized. We can either go, say 3.5 hours, say 4 hours towing to Bakersfield, 3 hours to Santa Maria, down south. If we want to go further, we go, Paris, Verona. So fortunately, we're right here in the middle, so we can go, hour and a half over to Merced. When they had Chowchilla, right next to Merced, it was the same distance. Tulare, Hanford are one of two of my favorite tracks. I really enjoy the bigger tracks, the 3/8 miles. So we were fortunate enough, Tulare had a IMCA tour race earlier this year. And I think we ended up third at that race. Been fortunate enough to race at Calistoga, Petaluma, Antioch. We've traveled up to, Southern Oregon Speedway, there in Medford, all the way up to Banks, Oregon. Raced a big, I think Doug Walters Memorial there. So Greg Walters and Billy Workman Jr., Joey Tanner, Colin Weinberger, there's a group of us at times when, we were traveling up there and they were traveling down here, Bakersfield, Santa Maria, and there's 3 or 4 groups of us traveling up and down that, we kind of form those bonds, just racing with each other. We're racing. We all have the same passion. We're competitive. We want to have fun, but experiencing new racetracks and getting those friendships along the way. That's a bonus in itself.
Yeah, no doubt. I had the pleasure of going to Hollister a couple of times, but most notably back in July on my way to Santa Maria, and no joke, it was a Friday night. I think I'd passed the Watsonville exit, and I definitely was past Salinas. And then all of a sudden I come up, it was right about Hollister, and it was just the whole time had been sunny and nice, like triple digits in the valley, nice and cool on the coast. And then all of a sudden Hollister, there was just like this, I wouldn't say it was ominous, but like a marine layer, and all the eucalyptus trees around the highway and everything. It made me feel like I was going down something out of Sleepy Hollow. It was just incredible and crazy at the same time, where all this cool weather all of a sudden came out of.
Yeah, no, we do have some good weather, that's for sure. We get the marine layer and the fog rolling in from the coast, and then you also have the heat coming in from the valley. So you can always tell when you're going over, say, Pacheco Pass 152, going into Los Banos, Merced area, at the top of the hill. If you're going east, it's going to get hot as soon as you get to the top of the hill and head down. And if you're in Los Angeles, Merced area, or in the valley, and you're coming over to the coast, you should for sure count on like a 10-degree drop. So,
yes. Yeah. The last time I went to Ocean, I was staying in Gilroy, and it was like 102 in the forecast in Watsonville, which it's not very, for people that don't know, it's not very far, like less than 10 miles or so. And the projected high was supposed to be like in the upper 60s, maybe mid 70s, somewhere around there. And I'm like, there's no way. But somehow, some way, you go over the hill, and it was a complete climate change.
Yeah. And, that's one of the cool things in living in this area is the weather. So we'll take it. Even though today we were out at the county fair, and it seemed like it was 100 and 102 with no wind. So
obviously it's been great to catch up with you and hear your racing story from your own words. People that you want to thank and sponsors that you want to thank to make everything possible so far and to make 2024 racing happen.
Yeah, Ben, we couldn't do it without them. First and foremost, to my parents, Ron and Marianne, my sister. Kind of without them, the racing career would have never started. So they do a lot behind the scenes, as well as supporting getting us to the track. My beautiful wife Carly and my two wonderful kids, Aaron and Max. They love coming to the racetrack, and as they get older, they just have more and more fun, and they're more engaged. Right now, they're 4 and 6. And then, like I mentioned, my sister, my brother-in-law Brian, and my nephews Sawyer and Jack. Every chance that they get, they usually travel up and come to as many races as they can. The Farrakhan family, Dave, my dad, has him queued up as the crew chief. So he's been there. My dad's best friend. So they're always there at the track helping and supporting us. So Dave, Peggy, Amy, Brad, Mike, and Erica. I mentioned Dana Stahl earlier in the interview, and without Dana and his support throughout the years, he's one of the reasons we're able to be at the position we're at. He's got a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge. He put a whole front clip on the car that we actually won the Pettit race. We did it in his shop floor with some jack stands, tape measures, and a level. And he's the wizard. Matt Carcerano, from the open engine days, modified late models, even to the crate stuff. Matt is awesome part of our team. Glad to have him as a family friend. MRT race cars, mentioned them as well. Lance and the whole MRT team. Dennis Simonovich with Sandblast Service and Dennis's Body Shop here in Hollister. So if you need anything sandblasted or any body work done on your car, he's the guy to go to. My good buddy Brandon, Clay, and Zach. Ralphie with TDS suspension, awesome shocks. He's been working with Clay, and we got a good package and got plenty of options for the various track conditions. Bill Pink carburetors. So Bill Pink has been with us for the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 years, and supplied us with carburetors for any engine that we've had. Even with the open engines, we've done some R&D with him. Really helpful, and glad to be able to work with Bill. Site Towing, Rick and Karen. Jim Bowman Racing at the racetrack for always having fuel for us, and tires. We can pick parts up at his house. Very valuable asset to the local racers in the area, and the whole Frost family. I hope I don't leave anybody out. I didn't leave anybody out, but it takes a whole family and a team effort to do this.
For folks that want to follow along with your upcoming schedule or results, what's the best way? Is there Instagram, Facebook, or any sort of websites that people can tune in to follow along?
Yeah, Ben, we have Obertello Racing Facebook page. There was a website once upon a time, but that's the best way to get a hold of us. Message me if you need to get a hold of me. We have search and shirts and merchandise and hats and whatever you need.
Awesome. That was going to be my next question is, can folks support you through any sort of merchandise sales? That's great that you have that, so folks can display with pride wherever they're traveling to or wherever they're watching some races.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's tons of people along the way. Ralphie with TDS Shots. We've been fortunate to work with a lot of really great people over the years. You just want to put yourself in the best position that you can to maximize, the effort that you're putting into it.
No doubt. Well, Andy, it's been great to catch up with you, and like I said, it's always wonderful to hear a racing story, and I'll definitely keep that in mind in the future of checking in with you in the coming months. I hope that the rest of 2024 goes great for you, and hopefully run into you either at Merced or Bakersfield.
Sounds good, man.
Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions.